Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever just stopped and wondered how your phone can understand your voice, or recognize your face, or even translate languages like it's nothing? Well, the secret is this really powerful idea called deep learning. And today, we're going to break it all down in a way that's super simple, super clear, and honestly, kind of fascinating. All right, let's get into it. It all starts with a simple question you probably deal with every single day. How in the world does your phone unlock just by looking at your face? I mean, it really feels like magic, right? But it's actually a brilliant piece of technology doing the work. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain. Okay, so to understand how your phone sees you, we first have to wrap our heads around the big idea behind it all: deep learning. We're going to start with the main concept, which, and this is the cool part, is actually inspired by the most amazing computer we know, our own brain. At its heart, deep learning is just a type of artificial intelligence that figures things out by passing information through a whole bunch of connected layers. Now, what's really interesting here is that it's a lot like how our own minds work. It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about building understanding, piece by piece, layer by layer, just like we do. Think about how you recognize a friend in a crowd. You don't just see Sarah instantly. No, your brain first processes the simple stuff, right? The edges and shapes of their face. Then it moves up a level, noticing key features like their eyes, their nose, and finally it puts all that together to go, ah, that's Sarah. Deep learning systems work in a very, very similar way, one step at a time.
So how does this whole thing actually work under the hood? Well, the engine that powers deep learning is something called a neural network. These are the basic building blocks. And to make it really, really easy to get, we're going to use a simple analogy from the kitchen.
Okay, so check this out. On the left, you've got the techie stuff, an input layer that takes in data, these hidden layers in the middle where all the processing happens, and an output layer that gives you the final answer. Now, look at the right. Think about making roti. The ingredients, flour, water, salt, that's your input. The whole process of mixing, kneading, and rolling, those are your hidden layers where all the hard work happens. And that final, perfect roti, that, my friends, is your output. See? Each step just builds on the last one. All right, so we get the structure, but how does it actually learn? This is where the real power kicks in. It's not about being perfect right out of the gate. It's all about getting smarter through a simple but super effective process of trial and error. First up, the AI just takes a guess. Seriously, imagine it's trying to identify a picture of a cat. Its first guess might be dog or even chair. It's kind of like a student trying a math problem for the first time. That initial answer probably isn't right, and you know what? That's totally fine. Next, the system checks its guess against the right answer. It sees, whoops, I guessed dog, but the label says cat. It then makes a tiny, tiny adjustment to its internal wiring to be just a little bit less wrong next time. And this is the most important part. It repeats this cycle of guess, check, and correct. Not 10 times, not 100 times, but thousands, sometimes millions of times. And with every single loop, its guesses get better and better until it can spot a cat almost every single time. Now that is learning. So now that we've covered the how, let's bring this all back to you. Because this isn't some futuristic idea from a sci-fi movie. Deep learning is already a massive part of our everyday lives, a lot of times in ways we don't even realize. I mean, just think about the device that's probably in your pocket or your hand right now. That face unlock we started with? Yep. The voice assistants that actually understand what you're saying? That too. And that spam filter that, thank goodness, keeps your inbox clean? All of it is powered by deep learning. It's the tech that lets our gadgets see, hear, and understand us. And this quote just nails it. It shows you how powerful this stuff really is. I mean, it's one thing to recognize a face in a perfectly lit studio photo, but to do it in a dark room from a weird angle, maybe when you've just woken up, that takes a system that has learned the deep, complicated patterns of what makes your face, well, your face. And that brings us to our last and maybe most important point. Why do we call it deep learning? What's the secret sauce? Well, as you might have guessed, it is all about the layers. The depth is what gives it all its power. So a shallow network with just a few layers can handle simple stuff, like maybe counting how many people are in a room. But for the really complex challenges, like identifying specific faces and even figuring out their emotions, you need a deep network with lots and lots of layers. See, more layers let the AI build on what it already knows. The first layer might learn the edges. The next combines those into shapes like an eye. And a later layer puts those together to understand the whole concept of a face. That's how it learns all those complex patterns. So when you put it all together, it's pretty wild, isn't it? You can see how deep learning is starting to mimic some really fundamental human abilities. It performs image recognition, kind of like our eyes and brain. Speech recognition is like our ability to hear. And language understanding is like our ability to read and write. Okay, let's do a quick recap. The 5 key things to take away. 1. Deep learning is a special kind of machine learning using neural networks with a ton of layers. 2. It's inspired by our brain, but, and this is important, it isn't a real brain. 3. It's amazing for complicated stuff with images, speech, and language. And finally, the most important one, the deep part is the secret. More layers means it can learn way more complex patterns. If you walk away with just one idea today, let it be this one. Deep learning is basically AI that learns like a brain, with layers. It starts simple, builds up to complex, and keeps going until it can master these incredibly sophisticated things like recognizing faces, voices, and words. And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. We've unlocked this incredibly powerful way to teach machines. So the question isn't just how they learn anymore. The question is, what should we, the people who built them, choose to teach them next? What big problem should we point this amazing technology at? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.